Hey guys, it's Danny. So I'm on a walk. It's a beautiful day on the east coast of Canada, and I was thinking I'm nearing the end of my 20s and it's sort of a time to reminisce on the decade and things that I've learned about money that I was fortunate people told me, and I had a really good circle of mentors around me to give me money advice when I was young, but not everybody has had that luxury. So here are 5 money mistakes you don't want to make in your 20s. Okay, the first money mistake is going to university just because. Now, I see this happen all the time. People finish high school, they don't know what they want to do with their life, and so they use the 4 years of university as a timekeeper just to figure out what they want to do. And then they graduate and realize that what they want to do may not even require the degree, or the degree hasn't given them the skills that they need for the job that they are going to do. And this is a serious problem because university or college degrees are so expensive these days. If you don't have a plan to pay back that student loan, or you're not going to be using the skills that you've learned in university in your job, think twice about spending thousands and thousands of dollars on a university degree that you may not even need. Now, I went to university and I'm using my degree in my field of work. And I think that it's really important to think about first what you want to do and then backtrack to see what it's going to take for you to get there, as opposed to just throwing money at university and using it as a 4-year social hour and then being stuck with the debt and not knowing what you're doing in the end. The second money mistake to avoid in your 20s is spending excessive amounts of money on drugs and alcohol. Now, often this happens in university, but I think if you took the population of 20 people in their 20s and asked them how much they spent on drugs, alcohol throughout the decade, I think it would be a scary number. And if they took that money and invested it instead, you'd be so much farther along. Now, that's not to say that you can't have any fun, but just in my experience, the amount of money I see people spending on alcohol, which is evaporated the next day literally, is not a good idea. So that's the second tip. Okay, and tip number 3 is probably the biggest one, and it's also probably the hardest one just because it goes against every natural instinct that we have, and that is lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation basically means as you earn more money, you start spending more money on things like you get a pay raise, you upgrade your car, you upgrade your house, you get nicer clothes. And this is the toughest one, in my opinion, to get under control because it's just so natural to want to spend more money when you have more money coming in. The problem is if you're using all those increases in pay to elevate your lifestyle, you will never be able to stop doing the job or whatever it is you do for money because you're not saving any portion of it. It is all going out the window into your lifestyle. Instead, the best thing to do is keep your lifestyle the same that it was when you were at your lowest income, and as your income goes up over the years, invest the difference instead. Now, this is really hard, but it pays off big time down the line. The next mistake to avoid is allowing credit card debt to accumulate. I cannot tell you how many people I've met in my life that think that paying off the minimum payment of $10 a month or whatever it is going to prevent them from having to pay interest. Credit card debt is literally financial suicide. I don't know what the rate is. I think it's like around 20% interest on your owing balance. This is terrible. Now, I am a huge proponent of credit cards. I think everybody should have a credit card. I'll talk about that more in another video. But you have to pay the balance off every single month in full. Very important. Not only is this a good idea so you avoid paying heinous interest charges, but it gets you disciplined with your money and paying things off, and it helps build your credit score so that when you do want to borrow money one day for a house or a business, the banks will look at you and bow down on the floor because you have a super high credit score and they'll be really excited to lend to you. So very important, pay off your credit cards in full every month. And the 5th money mistake to avoid in your 20s, now this is a sneaky one because most people who do it don't think they're doing anything wrong, and that is living at your means, meaning however much money you however much money you make is however much money you spend. And people think they're doing really well, that they're not going into debt, that they're only spending what they make. But the problem is you can never achieve financial independence this way unless you get lucky and win the lottery or inherit a large windfall, because you are not contributing anything to your savings and your investments. So what you want to do instead is minimize your expenses, still have fun, and maximize your savings, especially in your 20s. This will pay you huge dividends in the future, pun intended. and it is the time to get serious about finance. Okay, so I just have to add one more on here, and this one is important, but it's a bit of a subtle one, and it is spending money on things because people expect you to, as opposed to spending money on things that are really important to you and things that you actually want. So this is the whole keeping up with the Joneses mentality, and I see it happen a lot. People land that job, they get the pay raise, and they feel that they have to upgrade their car or drive a fancy car, or they have to buy a new house and upgrade their house just because people expect them to, and they don't want to be embarrassed because they didn't do it. And I think this happens because, you know, your early 20s is a time when you are really financially fragile. You haven't had a lot of years with money to invest, and so you are susceptible to people's opinions of you. And I think it's really important to live intentionally and spend money and focus your money spending on things that actually matter to you and things that make you happy, and live intentionally, and that will leave you lots of room to save and invest. Don't worry about people think, don't worry about what they say about you. You don't even want those people in your life anyway. So these are just a couple tips that have really helped me in my 20s to grow my wealth and accelerate my path to financial freedom. Let me know what tips, I'm sure there's lots more that have really helped you. And in conclusion, really just your 20s are the time to start thinking about investments, not your 30s, your 40s, or God forbid, your 50s. You have time on your side when you're young, so use that time to your advantage, and it is going to help you big time in the future.